The night Arthur Reed almost died, nobody in that diner cared who he was. He was just a man in an expensive suit sitting in a corner booth at Lou's Diner on West 44th Street, talking too loud into his phone and ignoring the coffee going cold in front of him. Outside, the city was doing what it always did. Moving fast, making noise, pretending every person inside every lit window mattered. Inside Lou's, the dinner rush was winding down. Dishes clattered in the back. A jukebox nobody had asked for played something slow and sad. And Sarah Calloway moved between tables with the quiet efficiency of a woman who had long stopped waiting for things to get easier. Sarah was 7 months pregnant. She carried the weight of it the way she carried everything else, without complaint, without ceremony. Her feet hurt. Her lower back had been screaming since the morning shift. She had $11 in tips so far and 3 more hours on the clock. She did not look at the man in the corner booth with any particular interest. He was just another table. Another order. Another person who would leave without saying thank you. Arthur Reed was 36 years old, worth $4.2 billion, and in the middle of a deal that would make him worth considerably more. His assistant had booked the wrong restaurant and he had ended up here. Irritated, hungry, 15 minutes to spare. He ordered a burger he did not intend to eat and went back to his phone. That was when he started to choke. He was quiet at first. A small cough. Then another. His hand went to his throat. The burger had gone down wrong. A piece of it, a chunk, lodged somewhere it should not be. He stood up. His chair scraped back hard. His face went from pink to red to something closer to purple in the space of 10 seconds. He knocked his coffee over. He could not speak. He could not pull air into his lungs. The people at the 2 nearest tables looked up and then looked away, the way people do when they're not sure if something is real or if they're about to be embarrassed for reacting. Sarah saw it from across the room. He did not hesitate. She moved fast, faster than anyone expected, weaving between tables, reaching him just as his knees buckled. She locked her arms around him and drove upward. Once. Nothing. His face was going slack. Twice. A wet, terrible sound, and then the obstruction flew free and Arthur Reed gasped and the air that came back into his lungs was the most important thing that had ever happened to either of them. He collapsed against her. She held him up, the strength of a woman who works double shifts, not from a gym but from necessity. She lowered him into his chair and the whole diner was looking. Someone was calling 911. Someone else was filming. Sarah's hands shook as she checked his pulse and kept him from sliding sideways. She had done a first aid course 3 years ago. He had never thought she would need it. Arthur looked up at her. His eyes were glassy but he was alive, and in that moment, just before the room swam, he saw her face. Brown eyes. A small scar above her right eyebrow. She was saying something to him, calm and steady, but the ringing in his ears drowned the words. He tried to hold on to her face. The room went dark. The ambulance arrived 4 minutes later. Sarah watched them load him onto the stretcher. She watched them check his vitals and strap him in and close the doors. She did not ride with him. Nobody asked her to. One of the paramedics told her she had done the right thing. She nodded. Her shift still had 3 hours left. She went back to work. She did not sleep well that night. She kept thinking about his face before he passed out, like she was the only solid thing in a room coming apart. She told herself it was adrenaline. Biology. Meant nothing. She had done what any decent person would do. She went to the hospital the next morning anyway. She told herself it was just to check. She was not looking for anything. She had never once walked into a room expecting a reward for doing the right thing. She asked for Arthur Reed at the front desk, took the elevator to the 4th floor, found the room and knocked. The woman who opened the door was not Arthur. She was tall, maybe 45, with the kind of bone structure that money maintains long past its natural expiration. She wore a cream blazer and no jewelry except for a single gold watch. Her eyes moved over Sarah, over the waitress uniform, the swollen belly, the cheap shoes, and something shifted in her expression. Not surprise. Assessment. "Can I help you?" the woman said. Her name was Diana Reed. Arthur's sister. Sarah introduced herself. Said she was the one who had helped Arthur at the diner. Diana's face did not change. "Arthur is resting," Diana said. "I know. I just wanted to make sure he was okay." "That's very thoughtful." Diana stepped slightly into the doorway. Not blocking it exactly. Just making it clear the conversation was happening here in the hall and not inside. "He's recovering well. The doctors expect a full recovery, Good, Sarah said. That's really good. There was a pause. Sarah turned to go. We've already spoken with the paramedics, Diana said behind her. The lead paramedic, a Mr. Donovan. He performed the actual rescue procedure. Arthur's been told. Sarah turned back. I'm sorry. These situations can be confusing, Diana said. Her voice was smooth. Practiced. People remember things differently. Trauma does that. But Mr. Donovan has been very clear about what happened. Sarah stood very still. That's not what happened. I understand you believe that. Diana reached into the pocket of her blazer and pulled out an envelope. She held it out. We'd like you to have this. For your trouble. And for your discretion. Sarah looked at the envelope. He did not take it. I don't want your money, she said. Her voice was quiet and she kept it that way. I just wanted to make sure he was all right. She looked past Diana at the closed door behind her and then she looked back. Tell him I said he's welcome. She walked back to the elevator. She pressed the button. She did not cry until she was outside. 4 days later, Arthur Reed's private plane left the city. The same week, Sarah took a pregnancy test she had already known would come back positive and sat on the edge of her bathtub for a long time, not moving, just breathing. She thought about a lot of things in that stretch of silence. She thought about the father, a man she had been briefly, stupidly in love with who had left 8 months ago and not looked back. She thought about her mother who was 3 states away and barely managing her own bills. She thought about the diner which the owner had been threatening to close since January. And she thought just once about the look on Arthur Reed's face in that moment before he lost consciousness. Then she put him out of her mind entirely. She had a baby to prepare for. Lou's Diner closed on a Tuesday in October. No warning, just a sign on the door and 2 weeks of severance pay that barely covered a month of rent. Sarah was 8 months pregnant. She filed for every assistance program she could find. She applied to 12 jobs and got 2 callbacks. She moved into a smaller apartment. 1 bedroom, 3rd floor, a radiator that knocked all night, and she painted the walls of what would be the nursery a soft yellow because yellow was cheerful and cheerful was a decision, not a feeling. Leo was born on a Wednesday in November. He came into the world loud and angry and absolutely perfect. He had his mother's eyes, dark brown, wide set, already looking at everything like he was cataloging it. Sarah held him for the first time and felt something shift inside her, some tectonic realignment, and understood for the first time what it meant to have a reason that outweighed every other reason. She named him Leonard after nobody in particular because she liked the weight of it. He called him Leo from the start. She got a night shift cleaning job through an agency. The hours were brutal but it paid more than waitressing and the agency had benefits. Her neighbor Mrs. Okafor, 63, 5 children raised, the most competent person Sarah had ever met, watched Leo on work nights. This was the system. It was not the life Sarah had imagined at 22, but it was real and it was hers and she moved through it without bitterness because bitterness was a luxury and she had no room for luxuries. 18 months passed. Then the agency reassigned her. Reed Tower was 52 floors of glass and dark steel, the kind of building that made people stop on the sidewalk. Sarah had walked past it twice without looking up. Now she reported to the service entrance every night at 10:15, assigned to the executive floors, the penthouse offices, the conference rooms that looked like movie sets, pushing her cart through spaces that cost more per square foot than her apartment and trying not to think about the man whose name was on every wall. His face was on everything. In the lobby a portrait. On the 49th floor a framed magazine cover. Business Weekly. Reed disrupts the market. In the conference rooms plaques and awards with his name on them. Arthur Reed. She saw his name every single night and she pushed her cart past it every single night and she did not allow herself to feel anything about it, because she was a professional and she was tired and she had learned a long time ago that feelings cost energy she could not spare. She told herself she had forgotten him. She had not forgotten him. On a Thursday night in late March, Leo's regular babysitter called at 9:45 with a fever and a voice full of apology. Sarah had 45 minutes to figure out a solution. Mrs. Okafor was visiting her daughter in Philadelphia. The agency's last-minute policy was strict. No call-in, no pay, and 2 unexcused absences meant reassignment. Sarah could not afford reassignment. She packed Leo into his coat and his small rubber boots and his backpack with the truck on it and she brought him to work. She told herself it would be fine. The offices at that hour were empty. She had never seen anyone on the top floors past 9. Leo was good, quiet when he needed to be, easy to redirect, currently very interested in a small wooden train she had brought in the backpack. He could sit in the cleaning cart alcove off the main hallway and play with his train while she worked. She checked on him every 10 minutes. She was efficient. She was careful. What she did not know was that Arthur Reed had flown back into the city that afternoon. What she did not know was that he had come in to deal with a crisis, a contracts dispute with a European partner that could not wait, and that he had sent his entire staff home at 8 and was still in his office on the 52nd floor at 11:15, working his way through a stack of documents and a glass of whiskey he was not really drinking. The first thing Arthur heard was a small sound. A rolling sound. Something wooden moving across a hard floor. He looked up from his desk. The sound stopped. He went back to his documents. 30 seconds later it started again. Arthur stood up. He was not a man who startled easily, but the building was supposed to be empty and there was something rolling across the hallway floor outside his office, which meant either his security team had a serious problem or he was losing his mind. He walked to the door and pulled it open. The hallway was lit by the ambient glow of the city through the floor-to-ceiling windows. The cleaning cart was parked near the elevator bay. The woman working the hallway had her back to him, running a mop in careful, practiced strokes, earbuds in, unaware he was there. At his feet, a small wooden train had rolled to a stop against the threshold. Arthur looked down at the train. Then he looked up and saw, halfway down the hall near the alcove, a small boy, maybe 18 months, maybe 2 years old, sitting on the floor with his rubber boots on the wrong feet, watching Arthur with enormous, serious eyes. The boy pointed at the train. "That's yours," Arthur said. The boy nodded. Very solemn. Very certain. Arthur picked up the train and walked it down the hall. He crouched down to the boy's level and held it out. The boy took it and examined it for damage and apparently finding none, looked back at Arthur with those enormous eyes and said, with the gravity of a small judge, "Thank you." Arthur almost smiled. "You're welcome." He stood up. He turned around to find the cleaning woman standing 6 feet away, her mop forgotten, her face gone perfectly still. He knew immediately that he had snapped at her. 2 weeks ago on his last visit he had been in a black mood over the European situation, and he had walked out into the hallway at midnight and there had been a cleaning cart blocking the elevator and he had said something sharp. He couldn't remember the exact words but he remembered the tone and he was not proud of it. He had meant to mention it to building management. He hadn't. "I'm sorry," he said. "About last time. That was rude of me." Sarah did not move. She was looking at him with an expression he could not read. Not anger. Something more complicated than anger. "It's fine," she said. Her voice was neutral. Professional. "It's not, actually." He paused. "I was having a difficult week. It wasn't an excuse. I took it out on someone who didn't deserve it." Sarah pulled one of her earbuds out. She looked at him steadily. "Thank you," she said. "For your apology." Something about the way she said it, the careful, measured quality of it, like she was handing him something back without touching it, made him look at her differently. He looked at her face. He had a good memory for faces. He had made his first million partly on his ability to read people, to remember details. He looked at her face and felt the distant pull of something he could not place. Behind him, Leo had gotten to his feet and was toddling toward the cleaning cart with his train, apparently deciding the conversation was over. Sarah moved past Arthur to scoop Leo up and as she did her sleeve rode up, just for a moment, and Arthur saw it. A scar. On the back of her right hand. A thin, straight line pale against her skin, the kind of scar that comes from a sharp edge caught in a moment of speed and force. He had seen that scar before. He didn't know how he knew. He couldn't explain it. It was not a memory so much as a physical sensation. A pull somewhere in his chest, low and urgent like a rope going taut. He stood very still and let the feeling move through him, and the feeling brought images. A fluorescent ceiling. A voice, low and calm, saying something he couldn't hear. Brown eyes, close, very close, steady and sure. The sensation of air coming back into his lungs like a gift. He had been told a paramedic saved his life. He had never questioned it. Why would he? He had been unconscious. He had woken up in a hospital room with his sister, and a story that made sense and no reason to doubt it. But the scar. He had seen that scar. In the diner. On the woman who had. "Wait," he said. Sarah had Leo on her hip and was reaching for her mop cart. She stopped. Arthur's voice came out very quiet. What's your name? Pause. Just a beat too long. Sarah, she said. He watched her face. The careful stillness in it. The way she was holding herself, not looking at him and not looking at him, that precise balance of someone who has rehearsed being invisible. Were you at Lou's diner 2 years ago? He said it slowly. On West 44th. October. Were you? Mr. Reed. Her voice was steady but something moved through it, something she held down hard. I have 2 more floors to cover tonight. Sarah. She looked at him then. Really looked at him. And there it was. The thing she had kept behind her eyes for 2 years, packed away in the place where you keep the things that cost too much to look at directly. It was not hatred. It was something quieter and more permanent than hatred. It was the face of someone who had been made to understand that her value had limits, and who had decided to survive that understanding. Leo put his hand on his mother's face. Arthur Reed looked at the boy. He looked at his eyes. Brown, wide-set, already looking at everything like he was cataloging it. He felt the floor move under him, not literally but close enough. How old is he? Arthur said. Sarah did not answer. Sarah. How old is he? She lifted her chin. 17 months. The math arrived in Arthur's chest like a blow. He did not speak for a long moment. The city glowed through the windows. Leo had dropped his train again and was watching it with great concentration as it rolled a small, slow circle on the polished floor. The building hummed around them, all 52 floors of it, full of his name and his face and everything he had built, and right here, right now in this hallway was the thing he had not built, the moment he had missed, looking at him from inside a child's dark and serious eyes. She told you not to come back, Arthur said. It was not a question. Sarah said nothing. My sister. Diana. She told you, she made you think. It doesn't matter now. Sarah's voice was still level. Still professional. But her arms tightened around Leo and the movement gave her away. It matters. Arthur's jaw tightened. It matters to me. You were told a paramedic saved you, Sarah said. She said it the way you say a fact you have made peace with. You went on with your life. So did I. That's all that happened. That's not all that happened. He took a step toward her. Not threatening, careful. Like she was something he might break if he moved wrong. You saved my life. You were pregnant. You were alone. And my sister. He stopped. His voice had gone rough. He cleared it. I didn't know. I know you didn't know. I want to. He stopped again. Tried to find the right words and found, to his considerable frustration, that his vocabulary, which had closed billion-dollar deals in 3 languages, was failing him entirely. I want to do something. Whatever you need. Financial support, housing, whatever. I don't want your money. She had said those exact words before in a hospital hallway 2 years ago. Her voice sounded the same. Arthur went quiet. Leo, apparently bored with the fallen train, held his arms out toward Arthur with the particular imperious confidence of a toddler who has decided something. Arthur looked at him. Leo looked back. Arthur crouched down. He held out his hand, cautious, and Leo grabbed his finger with a grip that was surprisingly strong and looked up at him with those enormous brown eyes and said something that sounded like, more train, and pointed at the floor. Arthur picked up the train. He handed it over. His hand was not entirely steady. He stood back up. He looked at Sarah. She was watching him with an expression that was doing the impossible work of being completely closed and completely readable at the same time. A woman trying to decide something enormous in a moment that was moving too fast. I'm not asking to buy anything, Arthur said. His voice was low. I'm not asking to fix it. He looked at Leo, then back at her. I didn't know I had a son. And now I do. And I don't know what that means yet. I don't know what I'm asking for. He paused. Except for the chance to ask. The hallway was very quiet. Leo made a small sound and leaned his head against his mother's shoulder, and Sarah looked down at him for a moment. Just a moment, and when she looked back up, something had shifted in her eyes. She looked at Arthur Reed, the man on every poster in this building, the man she had saved and been erased by and carried in silence for 2 years, and she said nothing. But she did not leave. And down on the 51st floor, Arthur's phone began to ring. His security chief's name on the screen. And somewhere in the building the elevator opened, and footsteps that did not belong to a cleaning crew moved down the hallway toward them. Sarah heard it first. Her eyes went to the stairwell door at the end of the hall. Then to Arthur. Then to Leo in her arms. Arthur turned. The footsteps stopped. And Diana Reed stepped out of the elevator bay in her cream blazer and her gold watch and her face like a decision already made, and she saw her brother and she saw the cleaning woman and she saw the child, and in the space of 2 seconds, the whole shape of what she had built and what she stood to lose moved across her face like weather. "Arthur," she said. Her voice was perfectly composed. "I've been trying to reach you." Arthur did not look away from his sister. His voice when it came was very quiet. "I know what you did," he said. Diana's expression did not change. She was very good at this, she had been very good at this her entire life. "I don't know what she's told you," Diana said, "but this woman is." "Don't." One word. Flat and final. The hallway held its breath. Arthur turned back to Sarah. His sister was behind him. His son was in his arm's reach. 2 years of a story he had been told and believed were dissolving around him in real time, and he was standing in the rubble of it and he had to decide, right now, tonight, in this hallway, what kind of man he was going to be. He held out his hand to Sarah. Sarah looked at it. Leo looked at it. Diana said his name again, sharper this time, and the elevator opened again behind her, and there were more footsteps, and the night was accelerating toward something none of them could take back. And Sarah Calloway, who had never once in her life asked to be saved, looked at the man who owed her everything and had offered her nothing but a hand and a question, and she had to decide. Diana said something behind Arthur. Something about lawyers, something about the company. Arthur did not turn around. He was looking at Sarah with an expression she had not seen on his face before. Not in the diner, not in this hallway a moment ago. It was something stripped. Something that had stopped performing. "She paid a paramedic," Arthur said, still not looking at his sister. "His name was Donovan. She paid him to claim he did it." His voice was conversational. The way very calm people go calm when they are the most angry. "I've already called legal. Tonight. Before I came upstairs." Sarah went very still. "I've been putting things together for the last 2 hours. Since I saw the scar." He looked down at her hand, then back up. "I pulled the diner's incident report. The filing was from the restaurant manager. The description matched. Female, pregnant, working the floor that night. There was no Donovan on the ambulance crew. The actual crew confirmed the patient was already stable when they arrived. Somebody had done it before they got there." Diana's voice came sharp from behind him. "Everything I did to protect you. She was a stranger." "Stop." He said it gently, which was worse than shouting. "Don't make it reasonable. She saved my life." 3 words. Flat. Absolute. You took that from her. You paid someone else to wear it and left her alone. Pregnant and alone. He finally turned to his sister fully, and whatever his face was doing made Diana go quiet. "Leave this floor. I'll talk to you tomorrow." Diana looked at Sarah one last time, not the polished blankness from before but something rawer, and then she walked to the elevator and the doors closed and the hallway was quiet. Leo had fallen asleep somewhere in those last minutes, rocked by the tension and the warmth of his mother's arms, his head tipped sideways on her shoulder, his train still clutched in one fist, his rubber boots with their wrong feet dangling peacefully. Children could do that. Sleep through the moments that undid adults. Arthur's attorney waited with a tablet. Arthur waved him off. The man retreated and the hallway was just the 2 of them now and the sleeping boy between them. "What are you asking for?" Sarah said. "I want to know him." He said it plainly. "My son. And to do right by you, not as a transaction. Because it's right." He paused. "He looks like you. But he holds things the way I do. Like he's afraid they'll roll away." Sarah looked at Leo's fist around the train. "He's not a negotiation," she said. "If you come into his life and disappear, that's not something he recovers from." "I know." He could hear that he meant it. Which was the thing that made it hard. People who meant things but hadn't been tested on whether meaning was enough. She shifted his weight again. She looked at Arthur's outstretched hand. And then, from the elevator alcove, the attorney's voice, careful and apologetic. "Mr. Reed. I'm sorry to interrupt. There's a call you need to take. It's about the European contract. The other party has made a move. Tonight. It can't wait." Arthur's jaw tightened. He did not look away from Sarah. The attorney cleared his throat. "Sir. The call. If you don't take it in the next 5 minutes, we lose the position entirely. Arthur stood at the intersection of everything. The deal that had brought him back to this city. The woman who had kept him alive to make it. The boy sleeping between them who had his grip in her eyes. The attorney waiting with a tablet and a deadline. His sister in the elevator going down. All of it happening at once, the way life always happened. Not in sequence, not when you were ready, but all at once, demanding a choice. He looked at Sarah. She was already watching him. Waiting to see what he would do. Not with hope, she had been careful with hope for a very long time. Just watching. The same steady, seeing quality she'd had when she crouched over him on a diner floor and kept him in the world by will and training and the decision to act without being asked. Arthur turned to the attorney. "Tell them I'll call back in the morning," he said. The attorney blinked. "Sir, the window is." "Tell them morning." His voice was final. "The deal will hold or it won't. But I'm done making this kind of choice wrong." He turned back to Sarah. His hand was still out. Leo stirred. Opened his eyes halfway. Looked up at Arthur with the slow, serious consideration of someone waking from a dream. Then he reached out, his small hand the one not holding the train, and put it in Arthur's. Arthur Reed held his son's hand for the first time. He did not speak. His throat was doing something that made speaking impossible. He just held on, and Leo, satisfied, put his head back down on his mother's shoulder and closed his eyes again. Sarah looked at Arthur's face in that moment. This man who had everything, holding the one thing he hadn't known he was missing. And something she had been carrying for 2 years shifted. Not released. Not gone. But changed. The weight of it still there, but distributed differently now, like a load moved from one shoulder to 2. She did not take his hand. Not yet. But she did not step back. "I have an early shift," she said. "The morning crew comes in at 6. I need to get him home." She looked at Arthur steadily. "You have my information. Through the agency." "I know," he said. "Call," she said. "The right way. No lawyers first. Just call." He nodded. She reached down and carefully detached Leo's hand from Arthur's. Leo made a small sound of protest but did not wake. She picked up her mop cart handle with her free hand. She started down the hallway toward the service elevator. Arthur watched her go. At the elevator she stopped. Did not turn around. Her shoulders were straight. Her chin was level. The way she had always carried herself, not like a woman waiting to be seen but like a woman who had decided her own worth long before anyone else got a vote. "Arthur," she said. "Yes." Pause. The doors slid open. "For what it's worth," she said, "you scared me that night. I thought I wasn't going to get to you in time. A beat. I'm glad I did." The doors closed. Arthur stood alone in the hallway 52 floors above the city, listening to the sound of her going down. His phone was ringing. His sister was already somewhere below making calls of her own. The European deal was bleeding out across a time zone he had chosen to ignore for one night. And his son's grip was still warm against his palm. He pulled out his phone. Not for the deal. He opened a new contact. Typed one word. Sarah. No number yet. He would get it the right way in the morning. He just held the phone with her name on the screen and stood in the quiet and thought about what it meant to have been given something. Really given something without condition, and thrown it away without knowing. Then his phone lit up. Not from the attorney. Not from Diana. From a number he did not recognize. 3 words. "Leave her alone." Arthur stared at the screen. His thumb hovered. He thought about what Diana was capable of when she felt cornered. He thought about what 2 years had already cost. He thought about Leo's hand in his. He typed back 2 words. Not a chance. He pressed send. He walked back to his office. He sat down. Outside, the city burned on, full of 10,000 other stories running parallel to this one. Somewhere in that city, Sarah Calloway was riding home on a late bus with her son asleep on her shoulder. And she had not yet decided what she was going to do when Arthur Reed called. But she was going to have to decide. And Diana Reed was still out there.